The Malaysian state of Johor is shaping up to be one of the hottest battleground states at the upcoming Malaysian general election scheduled to be held on May 5th. The opposition alliance, Pakatan Rakyat, is determined to rock the cradle of UMNO and the fortress of the BN by sending its political heavyweights to contest in what many regard as BN's stronghold and fixed deposit state. Will BN's bastion finally crumble against the opposition onslaught, or will the opposition be committing political suicide? 28-year-old Stefan Pang is a Malaysian citizen who's been living in Singapore for the past 10 years. The Johor-born business consultant is one of 400,000 Malaysians currently working in Singapore. Like many of his peers, Stefan is excited about the upcoming general election because it'll give him the chance to pick leaders who can best represent his interests and safeguard the nation's future. But to cast his vote, Stefan will have to make a 3-hour trip back to his hometown in Batu Pahat, Johor. Still, the long trip up north is just a minor inconvenience. What matters most to him is the opportunity to partake in the nation's democratic process.
Well, the reason why I came over here was because of the opportunities over here. But this does not mean that, I do not care about the affairs back in my home country. So I believe that someday I would want to return. And if I can make a change for the better for my country, then I would do so, despite being overseas.
Stefan's vote will be highly sought after by both the opposition, which stands on the platform of change, and the ruling Barisan Nasional, which is seeking to defend what's been regarded as its impenetrable fortress for over 50 years. The BN currently holds 25 out of Johor's 26 seats in the federal parliament, as well as 50 out of 56 seats in the state assembly. The opposition hopes to win at least 10 parliamentary seats to boost its chances of capturing Putrajaya.
They are leveraging on, obviously, the grievances that to great extent mirror the kind of issues nationwide, or certainly in the peninsula in Semenanjung, that have been raised. Secondly, they will be leveraging the Chinese vote, which is quite significant and quite considerable in Johor. In fact, in some of the seats, both parliamentary and state seats, some of these seats are Chinese majority seats. So, and we know that the sentiment of the Chinese, the majority is for the opposition.
But the battle for Johor will prove to be an uphill one for the opposition. For decades, the dominant ruling party UMNO has enjoyed strong loyalty and support from Johor's Malay electorate. This stems from the historical significance of Johor as the birthplace of UMNO. Its strong reputation as the bastion of the party has so far remained virtually intact.
The Malays got a sense that Johor led the independence movement. And they find it so precious to preserve this. And they managed to do that because of the sense of loyalty and patriotism to the struggle of UMNO. They're so indebted with that.
So it's not so strange, of course, that Johor has always been the bastion of UMNO. If you look at their leaders, Johor has always been overrepresented. You look at the first cabinet of Malaysia, full of Johorian leaders. Now, why that was so, of course, is partly dependent on the fact that Johor was, among all the Malay states, the least colonized.
Former Domestic and Consumer Affairs Minister Shahriar Samad believes Johorians also feel a strong emotional attachment to UMNO and the Barisan Nasional. This is because, apart from being the birthplace of UMNO, the state has also become a valuable source of talent for the country.
At the national level, we pride ourselves in being able to provide effective representation, which means that we have ministers and deputy ministers coming from Johor, especially since we are able to, from every election to the next election, are able to introduce new blood and new talent into the political mainstream. And I think this will continue.
Even during the watershed general election of 2008, Johor appeared to have escaped completely unscathed by the political tsunami which swept through the rest of the peninsula, delivering the opposition 5 states and depriving the BN its 2/3 majority. The Pakatan Rakyat lost all but 1 federal seat from Johor and only managed to secure 6 seats in the State Assembly.
To assume that the tsunami did not reach Johor is a wrong assumption, because it did reach Johor, but there was no response to that tsunami. You know, there were changes and changes in the voting patterns in 2008 compared to 2004. As an example, I mean, in 2004, my majority was 46,000 in Johor Bahru, but when it came to 2008, it dropped to 24,000. You know, but yet still, of course, it was a very comfortable win by any measure. So there was an impact from the tsunami, and to assume that Johor was immune from the tsunami, I think was a wrong conclusion.
The Pakatan Rakyat, on the other hand, attributes its past failure to make inroads in Johor to the lack of strong candidates. But that's about to change. Pakatan Rakyat is sending political heavyweights like DAP veteran Lim Kit Siang and Vice President of PAS Salahuddin Ayub with the hope of initiating a second political tsunami from Johor.
In the last 5 years, since the people of Johor missed the opportunity to participate in the great and exciting political changes, we can see, in fact, the people of Johor are even now more expectant and enthusiastic than even the other states. So it's likely that Johor is going to be the most exciting. The whole center of political gravity has shifted to Johor after we had made the announcement that we are going to implement our objective. There's a Pakatan Rakyat objective to make Johor the frontline state.
Pakatan Rakyat also made significant headway in the 2011 state election in Sarawak when it managed to capture 8 additional seats, boosting its total tally to 15 seats. This raises a pertinent question. Can the opposition replicate this success in Johor at the upcoming polls, or will it be political suicide that would signal the end of Pakatan's big guns? It's regarded as a fixed deposit state for Barisan Nasional's 2 major parties, UMNO and the NCA. In the last general election of 2008, BN won 25 of the 26 parliamentary seats and 50 of the 56 state assembly seats in Johor. This is also the state where UMNO originated and where its coalition partner MCA has had its strongest support. But the situation may change following the decision by the opposition Pakatan Rakyat to expand its reach from the north to the south. The arrival of the opposition's big guns, such as the Democratic Action Party's Supremo Lim Kit Siang, may change the political equation in the state in the upcoming polls. Johor's electorate of 53% Malay and 39% Chinese may just work to the DAP's advantage, especially in predominantly Chinese urban seats like Galang Patah, Kulai, Kuang, Segamat and Labis, as it tries to tap on the Chinese support.
This erosion of Chinese, particularly, support to the MCA to go into DAP has not missed the eyes, watchful eyes of the opposition. They see the possibilities of change, they see issues of legitimacy, they see the opportunities to test the ground and to test it big by sending some of the big guns into Johor.
According to most of the surveys, 80% of Chinese are already have already decided they won't vote for the Barisan, they will vote for the Pakatan. The Indians seem to be harder to call, maybe 50-50. The Malays, I think, is still, I think that the line is quite movable there. And I suppose it's that line, it's that movable line within the Malay community that will decide in these elections.
Although Johor is not likely to fall to the Pakatan Rakyat, the MCA will most likely be taking a beating in its strongest state. The second largest party in the ruling BN coalition won just 15 parliamentary seats in the 2008 election, 7 of which are in Johor. Nationally, its relevance in the politics of Malaysia may be significantly reduced if the opposition is able to make major inroads in Johor this time around. But Pakatan Rakyat is also making a political gamble by moving heavyweights like former DAP chairman Lim Kit Siang and past deputy leader Salahuddin Ayub from their safe seats to Johor, where they're seen as newcomers to the political scene despite being born here.
Whether it is worth it or not is questionable, but it's a big, bold, transformative, radical approach to win by changing from Perak, Lim Kit Siang, safe seat, to Johor, untested. But it's a bold move, a strategic trust, which I suspect was soundly well argued, prepared, strategized. Whether or not this is politically suicidal could be. If Lim Kit Siang loses, that's the end. I cannot see him making a comeback. But winning or losing will depend on who's the candidate against him.
That candidate will be the Menteri Besar himself, Abdul Ghani Othman.
I'm not very sure that I can win or not, because it's a very high-risk decision, and in particular with the recent news and the Johor Menteri Besar himself, Ghani Osman, may come and contest against me. But whether I can make it or not is secondary. After all, the Battle of Grand Patah is not about whether Lim Kit Siang wins or loses, or even whether the DAP or Pakatan Rakyat gets a seat, but it's about whether the people of Johor, the people of Malaysia, make full use of this opportunity once in 56 years to bring about fundamental change.
Ghani Osman as Menteri Besar is not just an UMNO member, but it's actually Menteri Besar for everybody. And all this while, it is a BN Johor sort of political culture that the Menteri Besar has to be fair, has to be seen to be fair to all. And if he stands, it is with that background of being Menteri Besar and being involved in the whole development and planning of Grand Patah that he will represent all Johorians, not just UMNO.
The BN's choice to field Menteri Besar Ghani Othman against Lim Kit Siang from the DAP is a strategic one. Not only will he be a tough opponent to crack, he also reminds voters of BN's strong track record in developing the Iskandar economic region and transforming Johor into one of Malaysia's most developed states.
I think that what has happened under Iskandar over the past few years has allowed for the people to actually see that new jobs are being created and new type of jobs are being created, and a higher pay for this kind of jobs. So this is something that is, I think, not drawing in criticism even from the opposition. You will see that the opposition hardly even talks about we were going to, we're going to abolish Iskandar when we take over. They make no mention about it. In fact, they're quite keen on taking over what has been developed.
Well, the BN is banking on that, that it's delivered in Johor. It's created a formula where the different races and ethnic groups have lived in harmony against the backdrop of a vibrant local economy. This is certainly, there's certainly truth in that. But on the other hand, it's not a watertight case, as the Pakatan is trying to prove. Basically, that there are other issues, both economic and social, that the BN has not been able to deal with, that the Pakatan feels that it is better equipped to look into.
The stakes are high for both the ruling Barisan Nasional and the Pakatan Rakyat as they enter into battle mode to drum up support for the respective parties. While the odds are certainly not in the opposition's favour, it's a chance for them to create a dent on BN's traditional fortress and set off a second political tsunami from the south against a mighty BN which is fighting back to protect its traditional bastion.